In the evening, quails came up and covered the camp. And in the morning, there was a layer of dew around the camp. And when the layer of dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness was a fine, flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they said to one another, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, "It is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Gather as much of it as each of you needs, an omer to a person according to the number of persons, all providing for those in their own tents." And the Israelites did so, some gathering more and some less. But when they measured it with an omer, those who gathered much had nothing over, and those who gathered little had no shortage. They gathered as much as each of them needed. And Moses said to them, "Let no one leave any over until morning." But they did not listen to Moses. Some left part until the morning, and it bred worms and became foul. And Moses was angry with them. Morning by morning they gathered it as much as they needed, but when the sun grew hot, it melted. On the sixth day, they gathered twice as much food, 2 omers apiece. When all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moses, he said to them, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Tomorrow is a day of rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you want to bake, and boil what you want to boil, and all that is left over put aside to be kept until morning." And so they put it aside until morning, as Moses commanded them, and it did not become foul, and there were no worms in it. And Moses said, "Eat it today, for today is a Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is a Sabbath, there will be none." On the 7th day some people went out to gather, and they found none. Good morning. Welcome to week 3 of our Lenten journey through the wilderness, looking for God's blessings along the way in those wilderness spaces of our lives. I'm out here today at the duck pond, what we refer to as the duck pond, where our daughter loves to come to feed the ducks, and you can see a few of them here behind me. And I was thinking about these ducks as I was reflecting on our passage for today of God providing manna in the wilderness, because whenever we come out here to feed the ducks, it doesn't matter what time of day or where, there is a sense of expectancy that the ducks know that this is a place that they are going to get fed regularly by a lot of people, and they're always gathered around. Quite frankly, they're not alone. They've got geese, they've got other various waterfowl, and occasionally they're competing with seagulls who seem to live in the area and swoop down and try to attack their food. But you see this massive convergence of all these birds on the seed or on the duck pellets or whatever is thrown out for them. And I imagine sometimes if that's what it would have looked like in the desert when the manna appeared in the wilderness on the ground, and all of the Israelites come out and converge on this manna, just trying to gather it all up, especially the first time before they realized that there was going to be more the next day, or after that first Sabbath when it did not appear, because God said rest on this day, and there'll be enough for 2 days. And I wonder if that day after the Sabbath, if they thought, "Oh no, there wasn't any here yesterday. What if we need to eat more now? What if we need to gather more now?" And we know that some gathered more than they could eat, and it rotted because God only provided enough for that day. Now, the thing with these ducks is it doesn't seem to matter. They kind of go both ways. And on one hand, they stay. Even if there's a rainy day, even if there's a day that nobody comes out to really provide food, they know this is a place that they can trust, that there's always going to be food. On the other hand, every time they're fed, they fight each other as if it's going to be their last meal. And so I just kind of saw ourselves in that kind of reaction to those things which God provides for us in the wilderness. And the core of that is that it seems that no matter how much God provides, we never feel like we have enough. We're never content. We're always fighting and crawling over each other for more. We may have this sense that there's a place that we can go. Maybe that's our church, maybe that's at home, maybe it's back to a quiet space where we read our Bible and where we pray. But we have those places like this pond where we know, like the ducks know, that there's got to be something there for us. and we keep coming back. Maybe that's the reason that you're watching this study right now, these reflections right now, because Lent might be one of those times, like the duck pond, where you think, God does something during Lent, and so I'm gonna do something extra, even if it's just watching one extra little devotional video a week. I'm gonna do something to put myself in that place where the bread of life might come to me. At the same time, there's still fear, there's still discomfort, there's still a worry that maybe there's not going to be enough, that we still scrap and fight and compete for more. That's what our whole culture is based on, our entire economic system, based on the idea that you don't have enough to be content, that you always need more. We always look to the future. We always look to the next thing. We always look to what's going to be coming down the road, but never focus on what we have. I think of that line in Star Wars when Yoda is talking to Obi-Wan and he says that Luke is not ready to be a Jedi because his mind is never on where he is, on what he is doing. He's always focused on some far off adventure, something else that's going to happen that's going to be greater down the road, but never content and at peace in the moment. The truth is, when we look at the wilderness that Moses and the Israelites were in, most of them never had that future. Most of them never got a taste of the promised land. Even Moses himself didn't get to enter the promised land. The wilderness was it. How much did they miss out on? How much blessing did they miss if they were so anxious to push on through instead of resting in the provisions that God had for them there and what God was trying to teach them about being content, about having enough, about being dependent on Him alone for their daily bread. We pray it almost every week at church. Give us this day our daily bread. But what we really mean is give us enough bread so that we never have to worry about whether any more is going to come, that we can stockpile it like the man in his barns, stockpiling and building bigger barns so that there will always be enough for us and the generations to come. God doesn't work that way. The wilderness in our life reminds us that there will be enough, and that when we have more than enough, it is our responsibility to provide for those who don't have enough at all. We seem to have this idea in our culture that if somebody is getting something for free, something that they need, that they can't provide for themselves, that somehow that's taking away from us. But it's not a zero-sum game. Just because somebody might need more, just because somebody might not be able to provide for themselves in the same way that we might, doesn't mean that that takes anything away from us. It's God reminding us of how we are called to work together, of how we are called to serve one another, that those who have more provide for those who have less. And the only reason that doesn't work is because we can never be content with enough, because we're always hoarding, because we're always trying to gather up more manna than what we can store, because we're always trying to build bigger barns. Friends, that's not what the wilderness is for. The excess will rot. The barns will be destroyed, and eventually our lives themselves will be taken from us, and what will be left to show for it? And so our call this week in the wilderness is to live in this moment, to be content in whatever blessing God has given us. And maybe that blessing is simply the lesson, just like these ducks realize here at this pond, that there'll be more where that came from. You don't have to hoard. You don't have to scrimp and scrape. Rest, trust. Know that God is here with you. Go forth and be content this week in all that He has blessed you with, even in the wilderness.